Hello, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Rail Rangers on the Road. Every month, the Midwest Rail Rangers take you to an interesting and unique railroad destination across the Midwest, including places in Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, and Wisconsin. The Midwest Rail Rangers, a 501c3 nonprofit, was founded in 2015 to provide onboard educational programs across the Midwest. Perhaps you have caught us on select weekends on the South Shore Line between Chicago and South Bend, Indiana, on private rail excursions featuring dome cars and other heritage rail equipment, Amtrak charters and motor coach trips organized by the 20th Century Railroad Club of Chicago, and at various outreach events such as Train Fest in Milwaukee and Mad City Rail in Madison, Wisconsin. And now, mark your calendar for the first Sunday night of every month at 7 p.m. Central Time for Rail Rangers on the Road. Without further ado, here is this month's program. All right, well, let's get on with the presentation. Visiting all 423 National Park units. A presentation by Robert and Kandace Tabern given to you as part of our Rail Rangers on the Road program.
Why?
Yes, it is Sunday, October the 1st, 2023.
Well, let's just jump in and get this done.
You got to go somewhere at 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday.
Yeah, I gotta go wash my hair.
All right. So these are our milestones that we thought we would share with you of visiting all the 423 parks. We'll start it way back. It's fall of 2023 right now, but we're going to go back to 1991. And that's when I visited two of my first National Park Service units, Effigy Mounds National Monument, and what at the time was the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore. Of course, now it's a national park.
Yeah, so in 2011, Robert had around 250 parks under his belt, but then we reconnected.
And then we needed a bigger belt when Kandace came aboard.
And we decided to start over together at 0.
With a big belt.
Anyway.
2 years ago in 2021, it was just coming up this December. It'll be our 2-year anniversary. Visiting our, at the time, was the last National Park Service unit that we didn't get to. There were 423 at that time. And that was a visit to Guam, which we'll talk more about, back on December 27th, 2021.
That's right.
Oh, and there's Kandace stamping our book.
So our criteria for visiting the NPS units are everyone who tries to collect parks probably have different criteria. For us, it's been a minimal of watching the park movie in the visitor center if available.
Or falling asleep during the park movie, depending on what it is.
At least a 1-mile hike when practical.
Or a walk.
Getting the NPS passport stamp, which only Robert can do because it has to be perfectly stamped on the paper.
Yeah, and Kandace doesn't do it. We won't go there. We'll tell you more about the passport stamps if you're not familiar with that. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in tonight's program.
Sure. And then the last thing is my favorite thing is to complete the Junior Ranger program, even as an adult when possible.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, we'll talk more about the NPS passport program and the Junior Ranger program a little bit toward the end of this presentation, so if you're not familiar with those. So a lot of people aren't familiar with the differences of the National Park Service units. There's national parks, but there's also this whole long list of different types of National Park Service units that you see up on your screen. So what's considered a national park is usually a larger area of land. Not necessarily true in all cases, but generally a national park is kind of at the top of the list. And there's 63 actual national parks, but you include all the different type of National Park Service units, and that's where we get to 423.
So I know several of our friends, um, their goal is just to visit every national park, and that's a little bit more obtainable and doable than what we did. We visited all 423, every single type of park unit that you see on top on your screen. So if you're looking for something a little bit maybe more obtainable, you can just visit the 63 national parks. But there's also national monument preserves, national historic parks, national historic site. There's one international historic site, I believe that's the St. Croix Island in Maine. National battlefields, national military parks, national battlefield sites, battlefield parks, national monuments, recreation areas, seashore, lake shores, rivers, reserve parkways, and 3 national trails that are administered by the National Park Service. Now, another thing that is confusing on all this is these are like, for example, national monuments. There are 84 national monuments that are administered by the National Park Service. There are additional national monuments and some of these other type of categories administered by, let's say, the U.S. Forest Service or BLM, the Bureau of Land Management. So again, it is a little confusing because when you say I've been to all the national parks, people think maybe you've just been to the 63. When you say you've been to all these, there's also confusion on you've been to every national monument. Like there's Bears Ears, which was a controversial national monument out in the Southwest. And we're only counting national monuments, any of these sites administered actually by the National Park Service, not the Forest Service or BLM or other partnership groups. So just wanted to say that because there's some confusion when people say parks and park units. At least you know kind of what we're talking about here.
So time for a little trivia.
Oh, fire up your fingers. Maybe you want to play. If you want to play along, you can type in the answers here on our Facebook channel, right?
YouTube channel.
Yes, YouTube channel. We might be watching it anyway.
Yes.
It's late. It's almost 7:10. It's past my bedtime.
That's right. So, National Park Service trivia question number 1. What are the oldest and newest official units of the National Park Service?
Oh.
Do, 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 do,
wow.
do, do,
you don't have to hurt their ears. Wow. Okay.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, that was obnoxious. Usually I'm the obnoxious one. That is even more obnoxious than saying Rail Rangers on the road.
Let's move on.
We'll give them the answers?
Yes, let's give them
Do you know? Do you know?
I do know.
All right, without putting up the answers on the screen, what do you say?
The oldest
is you, because you're older than me?
Is Yellowstone.
Oh, okay. That's what you think.
And the newest is Medgar Evers.
Oh, wow. She's actually right for once. Holy cow.
So the oldest is Yellowstone National Park, and it was established in 1872 before NPS established it in 1916.
Well, that's before the National Park Service was actually established in 1916. And then the newest we got to visit, actually we did, do you remember we did this program? It was the first week of August. I believe it was our program way back last year on August 7th, 2022. We took you, we rode the city of New Orleans down to Jackson. So if you haven't seen that program, you can go back and watch our August 7th, 2022 program about the Medgar and Miley Evers Home National Monument. So so that's another one you can go back and watch. We did a whole program just on that park. We got to speak to the superintendent. I believe her name was Keisha.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, all right.
All right. So question number 2. Once established, can an NPS unit be decommissioned?
Yeah.
And has it ever happened?
Decommissioned. Well, I know that one of them has changed off the top of my head. I know there was what is now the Chickasaw National Recreation Area in Oklahoma was once called Platte. It was once called Platte National Park. Okay. So if you type in your answers here, if you want to play along. So I'm going to say yes, but that park really wasn't decommissioned. It was transferred from a national park to recreation area or national park to a recreation area, but I'm going to say yes.
So yes, it actually happened 26 times.
What? No, that's crazy.
So former sites include
Mackinac National Park.
Platte National
That's
Park,
the one I was
which
talking
Robert
about.
just told you about.
Oh, Mar-a-Lago. It's a wonderful place in Florida.
John F. Kennedy Center of the Performing Arts.
And then the Oklahoma City National Memorial was a park for 7 years. Part of the NPS was kind of affiliated, and then I believe it was taken over by a private foundation.
Yeah, so the dates next to it are the timelines of when they became a Park Service unit and when they were decommissioned.
All right. Well, you got 2 more questions, I think.
Yep. So question number 3. What is the largest national park unit by area in the NPS system?
Is that the Kandace National Park?
No.
What do you think of it? Yellowstone?
Maybe. I mean, that's.
Type in your answers. No. Yellowstone. Are you going to go with Yellowstone?
No, I don't.
Because it's huge. Because I remember it took us like 4 hours just to drive across Yellowstone.
Yeah, but I don't think it's Yellowstone though.
Well, what do you think it is?
Oh, let's give them just a few seconds here to type in their answers.
While they're typing in their answers or guesses, I know what the smallest is. I don't think that's a trivia. I hope it's not one of our trivia questions. I think the smallest is the Thaddeus Kosciuszko National Memorial. Oh, bless you, bless you. The Thaddeus Kosciuszko National Memorial in Philadelphia, and it is just a fraction of an acre because it's basically just a 1 or 2 story home of a Revolutionary War general. So I know that because that was on the sign when we visited Philadelphia.
And so without further ado,
we've been there.
St. Elias National Park and Preserve in Alaska. So it is larger than Yellowstone.
Oh.
Larger than
Yosemite Sam.
Well, everything's
Yosemite.
There you go. And Switzerland combined.
Wow. All right, one more.
What are the most visited national parks and most visited National Park Service unit?
I think maybe Yellowstone, but Yellowstone is it's too obvious of it. Okay, type your answers in for this one too in the comments if you want to play along with the other people who are watching us live here on October 1st, 2023 here. If you're not watching us live, that's okay too. You can just play along without typing in the comments. See, I'd say like Yellowstone, but Yellowstone, as we found, is pretty hard to get to. It's a long drive from population centers. I would almost go more Yosemite because it's closer to the big cities in California, and they actually limit the amount of people who go there. But then I'm thinking maybe something on the East Coast, like the Smoky Mountains, or Arcadia up in Maine, because those parks are pretty close. But then maybe like
maybe the Everglades.
That could be because that's pretty close to Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
The beach, the ocean.
But so before we put this up, I think the trick question says national park and the NPS unit. So there's going to be 2 answers.
A 2 and 1.
So national park, I'm going to go the Smokies on that, and then the NPS unit, it's probably going to be like Statue of Liberty. That's a good one because we've been there. Remember all the boats just constantly.
So you're saying
national park? I'm going to go with
Smoky
Mountains, NPS unit, Statue of Liberty. How about you?
I'd say the Smoky Mountains and Natchez Trace.
Natchez Trace Parkway.
Yeah, that one.
Oh no, we didn't. We both got the national park, but not the NPS unit.
So Blue Ridge Parkway,
which connects Shenandoah and the Smoky Mountains.
Yep.
So actually, 6 more million people drive the Parkway, which goes through North Carolina and Virginia, than they do. So that's interesting. And look, we've been to them. Well, we've been to all 423.
Correct. So we did.
So we've been to them all. All right. All right, so I'm going to share my top 5 National Park Service units with everybody. And this is really, really hard to put together. This is probably the hardest of this whole presentation for you, is the top 5 units. But without further ado, here we go.
Wow, you're spread all out. Whew.
Yeah, well, there's something unique about all areas of the country. And like I said, this is really hard because it's like, well, what is going to be my criteria? But, I get to ask this all the time, and I know yours are coming up next. So it's like, I don't even know how to rank them because, they're spread all over. I mean, they're spread out, but what do you rank them? Because, I mean, something in New York City can be just as beautiful as the Western parks. Are you looking at the city? So here we go. All right. Minuteman Missile in South Dakota, the Everglades in Florida, the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument in southern Arizona, Virgin Islands National Park, and Katmai National Park in Alaska. So South Dakota, Arizona, Alaska, Florida, Virgin Islands is I'm going with. And I'll tell you a little bit about each and why I picked these. All right, so at number 5, Minuteman National Historic Site in South Dakota. It was preserves the history and significance of the Cold War, the arms race, and the intercontinental ballistic missile development. The site preserves the last intact Minuteman II intercontinental ballistic missile system in the United States and a disarmed and demilitarized status. Guided tours are available at the Underground Launch Control Center, which you see there in the photo. Wow, I had long hair. This is, over 10 years ago. And then a missile silo can be also observed from above. This is a relatively new park. I think it came, and I could be wrong, I think it was established like in 1994, but they didn't open the tours until several years later. And I think the first time we actually went, it was just a trailer. They didn't have a visitor center yet.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and so the park is actually pretty accessible. It's located off I-90 and is near one of the 2 entrances to the, I believe, I don't know. There's exit 110 and exit 131 off I-90. You can look it up if you're out there, but they have tours and you can go down into the missile center. And here's some pictures. So there's one of our tour guides there, and I believe he was actually a missileer, if I remember.
That is correct,
so
yes.
He was actually, during the Cold War, he was down there and was a missileer. So that added some props here to this national park of why it was ranked amongst my favorite. Was he was actually this gentleman there who's the ranger was actually the one of the missileers for the U.S. Air Force down in the bunker. Oh, and there's Kandace always looking for some pizza, getting her Domino's there. Worldwide delivery in 30 minutes. It was kind of a funny spoof that they painted because the intercontinental ballistic missile they had there could be shot anywhere, I believe anywhere in the world in 30 minutes or less. So they kind of played off the Domino's. So they made like a little pizza box, but it has the missile on it. I thought that was kind of cool. That was actually painted by the Air Force missileers. All right, number 4. Moving on to the Everglades. And that's one of my favorites because an alligator there. Look at that photo, almost ate Kandace. Yeah, you probably shouldn't get that close, Kandace.
Well, I was safely on the boardwalk.
Yes, because the alligator can't crawl on the boardwalk.
Well, not usually. They don't.
Your feet are looking extra tasty in that photo.
Well, wait till the next couple pictures.
Okay.
You'll see.
Well, Everglades protects just about 20% of what is left of the original Everglades down in Florida. The park is the largest tropical wilderness in the United States and the largest wilderness of any kind east of the Mississippi River. I wonder one of the reasons why is this placed number 4 out of the top 5 list, because of the unique wildlife that you really don't see from us living here in the Midwest. The Everglades is about the only place in the United States, or really anywhere in the world, I believe, you can see alligators and crocodiles together. So when they say, what is that, alligator, see you later, or no, alligator, what is that saying where the alligator says something to a crocodile?
After a while,
crocodile, see you later, alligator. There you go. See, I know you're good for something. So that had to be in the Everglades because that's the only place the alligator could have said that to the crocodile. So just there you go. You learned something tonight. I don't know what it is, but you're learning something. So there's many flamingos and other bird species that you can see here too. One of our favorite programs, and we've done it at least twice, maybe 3 times, is the Ranger Guided Evening Program at the Everglades, and it's actually down the Hinga Trail, which Kandace is standing on there. But of course, that photo was taken during the day. But at night, you take a flashlight, you shine it out at the swamp on that trail where Kandace is, and you see, depending on it, this last time we were there, we didn't see as many, but the first time we saw probably hundreds of little red dots out on what was the water and the swamp, and all the eyes looking back at you were the alligators. I didn't even know that until the ranger said that. We just saw like red and yellow kind of dots. I thought maybe they're fireflies or something, but it was kind of cool. Oh, hi. See, that's why I live in Wisconsin.
Well, that's the same. You just zoomed in on the guy from the
Yeah.
last photo. So.
Yeah, but that's why I live in Wisconsin, where things like that aren't. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's I believe that was the Anhinga,
Mhm.
which the trail is named after. You see a lot of different tropical birds when you visit the Everglades. And then what's cool is the not only the natural history and the beauty of the Everglades, the animals, the plants, the tropical environment, but also the history, as Florida is very close to Cuba, and down there they also had some missiles as well, some military history. They had the Nike missiles, I believe that's what it was, the Nike missiles. So they had a base, and this was just a recent addition to the park in the last 10 or 15 years. They opened up one of the missile silos, and I believe our guide on this was also a missileer. The first time we did it.
Yeah, I think so.
Second time it was a
ranger.
But it's still good talk they did. So there's one of the Nike missiles, and so they do a cool presentation. So Everglades gets up there at the number 4 spot because of the plants, the animals, it's really nice to go when you live in Wisconsin to go down there in December, but also the history. It kind of covers all the bases of everything you're looking for in a Park Service visit. All right, coming in, my number 3 is the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument. So yeah, we go from the wet climate of the Everglades to just the extreme opposite, the dry desert of Arizona and the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument. And the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument, literally the southern border of the national monument is the U.S.-Mexico border, like literally. The border wall actually now goes through portions of the park. And I guess it's kind of an unusual one. You could see us there in my nice warm shirt. And that's what made me pick some of these parks is, we have parks here in the Midwest, but I kind of like the unusual things you don't see here in the Midwest. And, Oregon Pipe is one of them. As I mentioned, it's right along the U.S.-Mexico border. It preserves the wonders of the Sonoran Desert. The unique park has so unique that it's actually designated an International Biosphere Reserve. And this is where a living desert thrives. And I think it's kind of cool that, people think, national parks with the national park title, which we talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Only the national parks are worth visiting, the ones that have the full national park status. And like I said, some of these, like this is number 3 in my list of all of them, and this is considered a national monument. So just because it's a national monument and not a full park, definitely don't pass them up, as my advice to all of you.
That was the cactus you tried to get me to sit in.
I did. I said, wouldn't that make a great picture for this presentation tonight that we're doing if you just go sit right in the middle? Yeah. I said the Oregon pipe cactuses, they don't have any of the spines on there.
Yeah, you tried to trick me.
Didn't work though, huh?
No, it did not.
Yeah, you were very prickly after that, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So look how beautiful that is. Like I almost put on the list the Saguaro National Park, which is like 60-foot high cactuses with the arms, but I even like the Oregon pipe cactus, and they're pretty common. We learned in Mexico, but very rare in the United States, and about the only place you can find them is right in the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument. All right, rounding out number 2 is Virgin Islands National Park. We've been there twice. And here we go again with my theme of things you don't see in the Midwest. And this is on the island of St. John. There's 3 major islands in the Virgin Islands: St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. And a good chunk of I don't know if it's 50% or 40%, but a good chunk of the island of St. John is part of the national park. The park actually encompasses 60%. There we go. It's like we're doing this for the first time.
Yeah.
So this is the first place we went or discovered snorkeling, and there's actually an underwater trail that takes you that you have to snorkel in order to go on the trail, because the little markers are, I don't know, what are they? Like
The placards.
The placards are actually 3 to 10 feet below the 3 to 10 feet below the surface. So
Of the water.
yeah, it's pretty easy to see. There was a hurricane between the 2 times that we came. The first one was in the hurricane came in, I think, 2017. I don't remember the name of it, but it kind of disturbed some of the plaques, and so they're a little harder to see now. But we did go back beginning of 2022, and you're still able to see most of them. Beaches, coral reefs, hiking trails, nature sites, and even some human history sites. So really, just everything, and again, a great getaway from when you live in the Midwest and you're back home. You can sit and watch on your security camera back on your house. You can see 3 feet of snow in your driveway, and you're snorkeling in the Virgin Islands. So there's myself getting ready to snorkel at the Trunk Bay Snorkel Trail, and as you can see, it's just a quick little trail. You swim out and back. I'd say take more than 30 minutes to do. And again, you don't have to be a great swimmer. You could just wear kind of like
An aqua lung.
An aqua lung, they're called.
Mm-hmm.
So you can stay afloat, and it's not usually real choppy in the Virgin Islands. So, but you don't want to step on the coral. And there it is. Kandace is doing the. You got your bikini on?
No.
Oh, okay. There's Kandace checking out. Look at the beautiful water.
It is beautiful.
And never get tired of that. We've gone twice, and it was really fun. And then, rounding out number 1 of all 423 favorite of my parks is the Katmai National Park and Preserve. The park is in Southwest Alaska and encompasses more than 4 million acres. It's 290 miles from Anchorage, and most visitors, it's quite a hike to get to. You fly to a little town of King Salmon, and then you ride another 10-seat airplane to reach the park, to reach Brooks Camp, which you see us there in the photo. The main attraction there is brown bears who feed on the salmon at certain times of the year. So it's only, I believe, like 2 months, I think July and like September. You just need to check the website. So what was kind of funny about this is we thought the place where the plane lands there at Brooks Camp was where the brown bears would be visible. But no, we land there, and then we find out in order to see the brown bears, you have to walk on this nature trail for over a mile through a highly densely populated brown bear habitat to reach the viewing platforms. We're like, seriously? No fences, nothing. You are walking down a trail in the middle of one of the mostly densely populated brown bears places in the country. So luckily, rangers kind of monitor the activity along the trail. Going out, we went all as a group, but then coming back, we had to go on our own because everyone was kind of leaving at different times. So it was still kind of scary, especially coming back where just the 2 of us walking through all these bears. But we obviously didn't get eaten and
made it out alive.
There you go. So let's take a look at, I believe we have some video. But first, there's the plane, the little 10-seat plane that there's Kandace in the plane.
So on the way there, I sat in the back, but on the way back to King Salmon, I got to ride up front.
That's right. They offered us one of us, so I said, you go ahead and take it. And,
which was pretty cool, actually.
So before you could go on that little hike that I was telling you about, you have to go through a mandatory, I don't know, was it like 10 or 15 minutes? It was like a basic bear safety. So they don't even let you go anywhere in the park. You go right from the plane to this little ranger station, and then this gentleman here, he gives you an orientation, just like what to do, and you're supposed to, I guess, scare the bear if they're approaching you. You go. They told us to like clap our hands like this, and then yell, "Hey bear!"
They gave us little
bear.
jingle bells too.
Did they? I don't remember the bells. They gave us bells.
They gave us bells if we wanted them.
Oh, and then you can see on the ranger's belt in the photo, he actually has bear spray, and this is kind of cool, I guess. we didn't get bear spray, did we? Not here, or did we?
We brought our own.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to go through the safety class, mandatory to go see the bears. But here's the reward for kind of the scary experience. Oh wait, one more picture there. There's the so there's the start of the trail, and they actually held us up at this point. Wasn't it like over an hour? We had to stand there. It was close to that because there was so much bear activity on the trail. But there's the law enforcement ranger, and so she was holding everybody up, and they wouldn't let you go down the trail until it cleared. And finally, you reach the viewing platform. As you can see, there's a bear in the waterfall, just to up a little bit and to the right from Kandace's head there. But we got some good video we took. So there you go. There's
Actually, there's 3 bears in the water.
at least, I think more are going to be coming. I mean, at some point we saw like 10 or something.
Yes.
So, but people enjoy that. There you go. Oh, that's it's like, even if you're not a great photographer at Katmai, you can get some really like National Geographic style photos of the bears.
Yeah. And there's some more.
Oh, there's the bear showing his best side on the bottom there.
And there's Otis.
Otis.
That was his name. His name was Otis.
How do you remember his name?
It's because his facial features and his coloring in his face.
I just can't bear this anymore.
Oh, so unbearable.
Oh. All right, I turn it over to you. I'm going to take a little break.
All right, so my top 5, I think, are way cooler.
What? Cooler than the bears?
Well, I mean,
cooler than cactuses and missiles and gators?
Maybe not as cool as the bears, but.
Oh, all right.
But, so.
Wow, yours are. You don't even have any in the West. Yours are all east and then one in Alaska.
That's correct. So.
Interesting. None in the West were your favorite.
No.
Okay.
So, first was Gettysburg, then Freedom Riders, Lincoln's Home, Antioch Check, and Mammoth Cave. So number 5 is Gettysburg National Military Park. One of the coolest things about visiting this site was staying at the Doubleday Inn, an authentic bed and breakfast on the battlefield from the era. The house was damaged from the battle in 1863. You could actually see some of the bullet holes, or you used to. They left them there on the side of the house just for the I guess, effects. I always find all the Civil War sites very interesting, and I'm always eager to learn more about the Civil War. Maybe that's why I have a great love for Abraham Lincoln. Here's some pictures of us at the battlefield.
I think you're looking at the Confederate line of battle.
I am.
As we found out from doing research, you actually had relatives who were part of the Confederacy. I don't know if they fought at Gettysburg, but
We did find that out. Yes, would have been my great grandfather.
Okay. That's kind of creepy.
That is kind of creepy. His eyes kind of look at you. You don't have his name, just out of respect for him.
I think that's Burnside, maybe?
But
maybe. I don't know.
He was killed July 2nd, 1863 at Gettysburg. Number 4 is Freedom Riders National Monument in Alabama. This was one of the newest MPS units, having been established just 5 years ago in 2017. The site tells the story of the Freedom Riders during the Civil Rights Movement, including a location where white supremacists burned a Greyhound bus carrying African American passengers. Freedom Riders is such an amazing story of overcoming our differences and learning the whole story of heartache and perseverance, strength, love, and faith.
Oh, so interesting. Yes, very moving and touching.
So here's a painting on the side of the building of that Greyhound bus. This is the site where the bus was, it was surrounded back at the Greyhound station by this mob. They slashed the tires, so the bus driver just drove off, and he thought he was at a safe distance where he could pull over to change the tires. But little did he know was that mob was following the bus, and they caught the bus on fire and attacked the passengers that were on board the bus there.
The park actually preserves two separate areas. The main part of the park, the visitor center, is in Anniston, and that's the Greyhound bus station. And then, I don't know, what was it, about 7 miles, maybe 10 miles
To this site.
away was a very small site, and that's just along the side of the old U.S. highway where this actually happened in 1961.
Yes. All right, so number 3, Lincoln's Home National Historic Site in Illinois. Lincoln's Home National Historic Site is located in Springfield, the capital. The site preserves the home of our 16th President, Abraham Lincoln, who lived here from 1844 to 1860. This is the only home that Lincoln ever owned. I've always been a huge fan of Abraham Lincoln. When we started our quest, to visit all 423 NPS units, the various Lincoln sites were the first on my list.
Yeah.
This included his home in Kentucky, Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., and even Mount Rushmore National Memorial in South Dakota. Here's some pictures of inside his home. There's me inside the home. I think that was maybe the parlor.
Yes, that was.
All right. Number 2, Aniakchuk National Monument in Alaska. Aniakchuk National Monument and Preserve was probably the coolest site to try to get to. We ended up chartering a private plane that cost us about $3,000.
Is that all? Oh,
Woo.
yeah.
That was a long
That's
work
probably
week for that one.
that's probably the most expensive of our 423 quests travel costs.
Yeah. So with that $3,000, we had to make sure that the weather was perfect to fly into the monument.
Yeah.
As we had to land on a small lake inside the caldera of the volcano.
Wow, it sounds like an action movie. Like
Right?
Indiana Jones.
Right? Do you remember what that lake was called?
Mirror Lake? No.
Surprise Lake.
Ah, okay.
All right.
That's a surprise we made it in. Because why, Candace?
Because only about 30 days per year is it clear enough to fly into the monument, making it one of the most remote and the least visited unit of the National Park Service.
Yeah, out of all 423, this is it.
Yeah, so on average, only about 100 people make it in per year, and that includes park rangers.
And a couple scientists, too, I guess.
Yes.
And pilots. So,
yes.
They were saying some people, park buffs, there's, I guess, about 40 or 50 of us people who've been to all 423. And some people come up and they sit there for 2 weeks trying to get in. I was doubtful we'd be able to do it because with our itinerary and having to work, we only had 2 days. And it was on the second day that you look at the skies there, it actually cleared up because usually it's so cloudy. There's no radar or flight implementations or anything like that, so it's all visual approach. And so it has to be perfectly clear to fly in.
Yeah, so 2 days. So here's some pictures of us inside the caldera. It was pretty scary because actually there was bear paw prints that the pilot pointed out to us. So there is bear activity inside the caldera.
And to be fair, it's not all that far from Katmai. So.
Correct, yes. So here's the video of us landing our making that approach of the Surprise Lake.
City kind of very worked out a couple thousand feet up in the air. There's the lake on the lower, coming into the lower left-hand side of your screen. That's what Surprise Lake is at.
Yep.
So he's flying around the caldera, and as you can see, there's a lot of runways. In fact, the national monument is within the caldera here. here, so we actually had to go and we had to land in the lake because it was you could see the little hills. They don't look like much from the air in the frozen picture here, but obviously you don't want to run into them. You don't want to go into that stream bed that you see kind of in the middle lower left. So really the only stable place anywhere inside the caldera is to land in that lake. And so he made one attempt, and he was going too fast to actually stop. There's the shoreline, the flat part of the lake. So he was going too fast, and he actually had to pick back up because we would have ran up on land and damaged the plane. And then we went back up, and then we circled around and went back to land again.
Yeah, so, all right. My number one, Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky. Mammoth Cave National Park is my favorite and probably will always be my favorite. I love caves.
I don't know, they might add something else. You never know.
I've heard recently that they've added some more length to the cave. They found more passages, which is pretty cool.
I guess we have to go back down and check that out.
We love staying in the historic cabins overnight here. Every time you go down in the cave, something has changed. We might not notice those changes, but since the cave is alive,
yeah.
Which is weird to say that the cave is alive.
Well, it is. It's a part of nature and part of the earth.
But it breathes. As long as the river is there, it will always grow and change. A lot of visitors don't realize that Mammoth Cave National Park preserves a lot more than just the cave itself. A significant portion of the area on the surface above the cave is also preserved. So my number one, Mammoth Cave National Park. Here's some pictures.
Oh, there's Ranger Elizabeth. She's one of my favorite rangers.
I bet she is.
Yeah.
So this is our little talk. We were, before Robert advanced the slide there, they were giving us a orientation on going down into the cave. And here's our group coming down. We were kind of at the front because we always like to listen to the ranger and be able to hear them.
So I went down all those stairs.
You did.
Oh, that's crazy.
And you went back up all those stairs.
Yeah, that's even worse. All right, so we did both our 5 favorites, our list, and then to add a little bit more to this presentation, we some of the challenges that you face of. I picked just a handful of the hardest to reach national parks. One of those was National Park of America Samoa, and that is the only National Park Service site south of the equator. So from the Twin Cities area up here, first we flew to LA. That was about 4 hours. Then we flew 6 hours to Honolulu, and then it's another 6 hours from Honolulu down to America Samoa. So total just flight time, you're looking at 16 hours of actual up in the air, and then you throw in all the airports, the layovers, and because we like to kind of break up the flights. So 16 hours of flying time. Not super hard to reach, just we kind of get tired on all the airplanes.
Yeah.
But there we are. And they actually have their own language. And so all the signs at the national park, including the visitor center, are in
their native tongue.
Yeah. And there's a junior ranger badge, probably one of the hardest junior ranger badges to get. And some signs are just in their language.
That's right. So that could be either inviting you in or telling you to stay the heck away.
It's saying Fa Asala Singa. So it's a pretty language, and we got to ride some of the buses around America Samoa with the tourists, with the locals, actually. So, and then as you can see, so beautiful islands and a lot of World War II history. And then they had these traditional houses, which were really beautiful. We saw all around.
Ceremonial.
Yeah.
Gathering places.
As you can see, it never really gets cold. It stays pretty warm year round. It never really gets cold, so a lot of their buildings are just have a roof because it does rain still a lot, actually being a tropical place in the South Pacific, but has a lot of open air as well.
All right, so the next one was War in the Pacific National Historic Park in Guam.
So if you think the 16 hours of flying time was bad,
let's just add another 2 hours.
Okay. So again, you fly to LA 4 hours, 6 hours to Honolulu. Then it's a flight across the international date line of 8 hours all the way to more in the Pacific.
That's right. So they are a day ahead of us.
They are. So it would be the first national park to see the sun rise.
Correct.
And Guam would be the last one to see it set because Guam was
below the equator.
Or not, sorry, America Samoa
would be the last.
Guam would be
below the equator. Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, that was 18 hours of just flying time, not including layovers and
correct.
All that,
yes. So we like to usually fly from Minneapolis, St. Paul to LA. We lay over for the day or the night, and then we usually fly on to Hawaii, and then sometimes we will take a day there just to catch up on our sleep a little bit, adjust a little bit, and then we'll fly on. But I think this time we went from LA to Honolulu straight to Guam. So we didn't take
all blending together.
We didn't take a layover in Honolulu this time like we usually do. So this one was quite fun to get to. So we'll share some pictures now. Here we are. Our celebratory picture here of number 423.
Yeah, this was just about 2 years ago, back in December 27, 2021.
Yeah, so with the park sign and beautiful beaches here too, beautiful water to swim in, and just great people. I mean, they have respect for others and they just love each other. So we'll move on to the next slide. This is one of the trails.
Oh, Kandace always has big guns, I tell you.
That's right.
She's showing off her guns.
So the one interesting thing about these
are PD guns, right?
PD guns.
PD guns.
PD guns. They were never fired.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now. Yeah.
So
World War II we're talking.
Yes, World War II. These PD guns were there as defense guns, but they were never used. And now they stay there as a reminder or as a memorial to the people that put them there to defend themselves. So
the trail going up there was quite fun. You could see Kandace looks completely out of breath.
Yes, I was pretty wiped after that climb up that hill.
Oh, another hard one is not one in particular, but just general all the Western Arctic parks. Not as long, but just cumbersome. 4 hours to Seattle, another four hours to Anchorage, then another 2 hours so 10 hours on commercial flights to Kotzebue, which is OTZ on your screen, and then you add in the time for those like $3,000 flights to get to all the private parks, small parks up there, private bush planes, and so they basically have one visitor center in Kotzebue, but then from there you have to hire your own private plane. So they have it's called the Northwest Arctic Heritage Center, and they have the rangers for all the parks. But that's because a lot of the parks you fly to, there's literally nothing there. There's no visitor centers. There's no movies or anything. It's all at this one place in Kotzebue, and then they kind of cover 4 or 5 different park units.
I must have been cold in that picture.
Yeah, this is one of the most interesting ones. This is the Bering Land Bridge. As you can see, it's just there's nothing within the park. You just take your flight and you go to Bering Land Bridge. You land and there's no visitor services, not even ranger stations really. I think there might be one ranger station, seasonally staffed.
Yeah, and you just land and put your foot down
and that's. I mean, you could go. You could go if you want to go kayaking or go for a hike. I guess you could. We kind of just crossed off our list. There's another plane that we took to get to. We were going to Kabuk Valley, I believe, with this plane. So this is another one for several $1,000s that you have to charter. And there's Kandace in the air again for this one. And that looks like the Indiana Dunes are somewhere, but it's not.
No, it's not. It's in Alaska.
Would you believe if someone showed you this picture of sand dunes in Alaska? It's created by the glaciers and all that. I'm not going to get too scientific, but there's not even a sign.
Yeah, actually the visitor center gave us that little towel so we would have something to mark our visit.
Because I said, you don't have any. They said, we always get our picture with the park sign. And they said, well, there is none. And it's that barren. And, if the sign blew down, they're not going to pay to replace it.
So they give everybody that little towel to take with them and they get to keep it.
So there's if you make it out to any of these parks, they give you these little towels. It's kind of cool. And then there's Gates of the Arctic. We went up there. And that was you were able to drive and then walk into the park as you are on the Arctic Circle. And you want to tell them about this one?
Yeah, this one was pretty cool. This is probably my most memorable one. This
Of
one was,
all, yeah.
yeah. So we got to go on a guided photographic sunset tour of Cliff Palace ruins with ranger and musician David Night Eagle.
Yeah, I remember this one.
He was amazing. He was great. He's Native American.
Yeah, and the Cliff Palace is normally what you do is I think you pay like $10 and you go on this tour, but it's pretty jammed. I think they put like 120 people on it. They give you like 30 minutes to walk through the ruins.
Well, you don't even get to walk through the ruins.
No.
You're at a distance.
Yeah.
With this tour, it was $50 and it was limited to just 10 people.
Yeah.
So you actually got to go walk up in the ruins as long as you didn't physically touch them or anything like that.
Yeah.
You got to get closer to them.
You didn't get to go totally like in the kivas and all that.
Correct.
You got to go where people normally didn't go.
Correct. Up close and personal with them.
Yeah.
So we had 90 minutes to explore the area. The general other tour is shorter, like Robert said, about 30 minutes, and you don't get the same experience.
I think this is called a photography tour. I don't know if they're still doing it this is pre-COVID, so I don't know if they're still doing something like this, but it's called the evening sunset photography or something.
Yeah, so just look up on their website. You can see what they offer.
And you don't have to be a photographer. If you just want the smaller tour, you can still sign up. Yeah. You don't have to be a photographer.
Not at all. So
look at that.
Here's me going down the little bitty steps.
Yeah, you look like you're unsure.
I was a little unsure there, but I made it down just fine.
Yeah, that'd be that's a really rocky experience. Oh, that's a nice photo.
Here's us inside the dwelling, or with the dwellings behind us. That's pretty much as close as you can get to them.
But again, that's still closer than you get on the
regular
public tour.
Yes. So you can't see Ranger Night Eagle here, but with his back turned to you, that second picture. But he's actually playing a flute, a Native American flute, not the flute like you think that we play.
No, it's different. And many people have heard that type of music before.
Yes, it's different. But oh my gosh, it was so beautiful and so powerful and moving just to stand there in the quiet and listen to him, play, as he would say, I'm playing for the gods. So that's part of his ritual with him being Native American. So what an experience that was.
Yeah, it's one of those ones you'll never forget. And then one of my favorite was a visit to the White House in December of 2016. I think it was the last couple of months of Obama administration, and Obama opened up photography. It was the first time ever that the public was allowed to take pictures actually in the White House. And of course, you're still somewhat limited on the even the VIP tour. You can't really go in the private home of the president, but you can walk through all the red room, the blue room, the green room, the state dining room, things like that. So we got to go. We did a couple times the White House tour, and I think I did it several times more on my own. But this is the first and only time we've been there since they allowed photography. And of course, since COVID, they stopped doing tours totally. And there's my sister Jennifer. She came down from New York. We rode the train down and got to go to the White House.
So there's us in one of the rooms.
It was Christmas time, as you can see, which was another reason why we went when we did. The First Lady always decorates it would have been Michelle Obama at that time. It would have been their last Christmas in the White House. And they always do wonderful decorations. And if you're part of the public tours, you are allowed to go see the president's Christmas decorations. Red room, I think, right? I can't tell. How can you tell?
I don't know. It's hard to judge if this was the red room or not.
So it's pretty cool. And then outside, you can see all the security and stuff. But that's the famous door that the president uses, and we got to go do that and stand out there. And it's really hard. It's really hard to get tickets to this, but we were able to.
You have to have security clearance and through the Secret Service, and they run your background check.
I think if you even have like an OWI, you can't even get in. So it's really, really tough security. Yeah. And then people get tickets, and then They have a last minute dinner or luncheon or something, and you don't really know until the day beforehand whether you're going to be able to get in or not. So hopefully these tours will resume sometime, because it's it's a lot of work to try to get the tickets, but if you can finagle it, it's worth it. It's worth it, and it's one of the most memorable.
Definitely.
And a lot of people don't realize the White House is one of the President's Park, and the White House is a national park unit.
Well, another one is Jimmy Carter National Historic Park in Georgia. After touring the park in Plains, Georgia, we got to meet our country's 39th president and his wife, Rosalind, not Rosalind, Rosalind.
Yes.
Carter taught Sunday school that morning. He did it 2 to 3 times per month until the pandemic hit.
And one interesting side note is, if you look in the photo, it says National Historic Site, but our screen says National Historic Park. And that's because I believe in 2020, President Trump upgraded the park from a National Historic Site to a National Historic Park. So that explains the discrepancy in the photo and what we actually called it.
Well, thank you for explaining that, Robert.
I just thought people might, if you're being nitpicky, you never know.
Sure. All right. Here is his famous presidential campaign headquarters. It was really cool to go inside there. It was actually a train depot, right?
Yeah, that was the town train depot, and they turned it into the campaign.
Oh, well, yeah, because it says Seaboard Coastline Railroad.
Yep. Oh, and there's the photo.
There's us. We got gussied up a little bit, and so we could have our picture taken with the former president and first lady.
And there's very few national park units that are named for people who are currently living.
Correct.
If you think about it, the only one I can think of off the top of my head, a park of someone who is currently living, would probably be the William J. Clinton National Historic Park down in Hope, Arkansas. So just the 2 presidential parks with Clinton and then Carter were actually a national park unit in honor of someone who is living, as there are obviously dozens and dozens of presidents and other historical figures and things like that who have passed on, but only 2, the Clinton and the Carters, were at that point currently living.
That's right. All right. Well.
Oh, talk about the highs and the lows.
That's right. Highs and the lows. So the high, Alpine Visitor Center in the Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado.
That was the highest visitor center of the 423 in elevation, of course, we're talking.
Yes.
That is the highest point in the visitor center in the Park Service system. Of course, there's higher points with Mount McKinley or Denali, now they call it, being over 20,000 feet. But we're talking like visitor center.
Visitor center. So Alpine was 11,790 feet.
Yes.
And then the low.
Yes. Badwater Basin, the visitor contact station there, 282 feet below sea level in Death Valley National Park, just across the border in California.
That's right. So this was just 2021 we went to back to Hawaii.
This was on our route to Guam.
Oh yeah, that's right, to Guam.
So this is late 2021, early 2020.
So you can see me there pointing to the eruption viewing site. It says that it's 300 yards from where I'm standing.
So we went on the little trail. At first we went close to sunset, but first because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go an hour or 2 before sunset, and then you stay for 3 or 4 hours and you watch the glow.
Yeah.
And you can see the mist coming out. There's actually like a little rainbow, it looks like, coming out.
Yeah, right there above my head.
Above your head, but then you look way to the center, far left of your screen, and you can see actually some of the smoke. So during the day, it's still kind of impressive. You see some of the smoke, but wait till you see these night shots coming up. We stayed there until the evening. And so as we're waiting about, it's starting to get dark.
You start seeing the red.
Just a little bit of the red glow.
Yeah.
And then, holy smokes.
Yeah, this one was great. This was actually taken. This picture was our friend Mike took this one.
Yeah, he had a better camera at the time, so he was able to capture it. But there's that's what you see if you're patient. You go at 4 o'clock, and then it builds and builds. The last photo was just a little red, and then just as you wait and it gets dark, you see something like this. You can see on the lower right-hand side, you see some lights along the ridge, and that's the town of Volcano, and that's where we had our Airbnb, was over in that town. And if you look just right, you could still see the glow from that town, but this is right as close as the Park Service would let you get. And I think we have one more really cool shot. Oh my gosh.
It kind of looks like the flames are like coming up to get you,
Wow.
like there's a hand there.
Oh, well, that's the smoke.
It is, but it
And,
looks pretty cool.
So if you're real patient, and again, we were there 3 nights this most recent visit, and it was only the 3rd night that this was there. So this is not like a guaranteed thing every night.
Yeah, it has to be clear conditions.
And the fact that we've been to Hawaii 5 or 6 times, and only 2 of the visits, if I recall, was it actually doing this. So,
Yes.
so even if you're there, if you can time your visit at the eruption, and you can do it there, you're not guaranteed this, because it was raining and foggy, and it just happened on that 3rd and last night we were there to be spectacular. So that makes it memorable. And then, while we're in Hawaii.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor. Everyone, that's a must for everyone. You have to go see Pearl Harbor if you're in Hawaii.
Oh, and I should mention again, discrepancy. They changed the name of this from, it used to be called World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument, and then now they changed it. It's now just Pearl Harbor National Memorial. So again, if you're a nitpicky Park Service person, that's what the discrepancy is.
Okay. Well, thanks for that again. We actually got to meet a Pearl Harbor attack survivor.
And we took the boat trip out to the USS Arizona, and the memorial was actually built over just a little bit of the Arizona sticks out of the water. You can kind of see it if you look at where it says USS Arizona on the white, just directly below that looks like a piece of round metal sticking out. That is all. That's really just the top of the ship that was attacked on December 7th, 1941. That's about all you see. But what was really cool is some of the oil from the ship is still bubbling out to this day, over 75 years later. So there's just maybe 3 or 4 Pearl Harbor survivors still left. But this gentleman was young. I think he was like 19.
Yeah, he was 19 at the time, I believe he said.
And he was having a book signing. So since we're fellow authors, we have to buy his book and read it.
Of course.
About his experience. So again, this is something you probably won't get to experience. And then another one, this is Kalapapa National Historic Park. It protects an area in Hawaii. A lot of these are in Hawaii, but this was a community where they would send patients with leprosy. It's a national historic park, and there's about 7 or 8 really elderly folks who still have leprosy, and this park preserves that. And again, this is another park you got to jump through some hoops to get to. First of all, you have to be 16 or older. And then the only ways there are really kind of a scary flight. You can hike down a trail that drops 1,500 feet and goes back up 1,500 feet, or you can ride a mule down the trail. So we did the scary flight, 5-minute flight, but it was straight down the cliffside almost. Unfortunately, this park has been closed since March of 2020 to the general public to protect because of the COVID. So you could step foot in this park. Up on the top, there's a little area by a marker that tells the history of it, but really you cannot go down into the village anymore. I like this picture. This is the top side of the park, which is, again, this is the little monument. And then behind us is the little peninsula. And the reason why they put folks with leprosy in this peninsula is because really there was no way for them to get, they can't get anywhere else. It's shark infested water. So if they try to leave or escape, they really can't, and it's so hard to get up the cliff. There wasn't even the trail at the time, so they put them in that flat area of land behind us that you're looking down on.
Way cool.
And so we got to go there. His father Damien was their priest. He's pretty well known, and they only let you. You couldn't walk around on your own. You had to ride the provided the Park Service bus, which was like an old school bus, really rickety old school bus, and they would only let you in just a couple of the buildings. All right, so we got to go in their beautiful church, and then Mother Mary Ann Cope was also a nun, I believe, who was with Father Damien there. and that's a monument to her there. And then there's Father Damien's grave as well.
There's the school bus
You
behind.
can see the rickety school bus. So again, even when this thing was open, all the stores were open. It was still a lot of hoops to go through. No kids are allowed, and they even said don't unless the folks with leprosy approach you. Respect their privacy.
Yeah. Don't talk to them unless they talk to you.
But we could tell there were two. From what I remember, there were two patients at the airport. And then there was the gentleman in the bookstore at the time. You could tell he had leprosy. So I think we got to meet three of the community members there. From what I understand, the eventual plan is to keep it like that until all the patients pass, and then they're going to open it as more frequent visits and things like that. But again, that's what made it the most memorable experience. Is there were only 7 or 8 of the survivors of Kalapapa there. We got to meet 3 of them kind of unintentionally.
Yeah, do your research if you get to go.
Yeah.
That way you can you know what to do. So, Statue of Liberty, National
Monument.
Yeah. You get to the most memorable thing for us. It hasn't been open in quite some time now, but was the climb up to the crown.
Yeah, and then the hardhat tour of Ellis Island too, which has opened. You just can't do the crown.
Correct.
That's cool. We were just talking about that, and that's closed. First it was 9/11, then they had to replace the staircase, then it reopened, and then with COVID, then it closed again. So to be able to, we just happened to be in New York when it was open, and it was really hard to get tickets. It sold out within like 5 minutes. You had to get up at like midnight, and when they threw the tickets.
And that was quite a climb, which we'll show you pictures of. Yeah. That's the Ellis Island
That's the hard hat tour, which is pretty cool. And again, it was not for effects. You had to wear the hard hats because some of the ceilings were actually, it didn't happen on our tour, but some of the tiles were actually popping off the roof. Mm-hmm. So it really, the hard hats were not even just for show. Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's the staircase to the crown of the Statue of Liberty. So we actually did that. You go up that really winding staircase, and there you are. It's smaller than I thought. I mean, I guess I knew it was going to be small, but really, there's only room for it. It was worth it, but it was also kind of disappointing because you had maybe 60 seconds. It was so small to look out, grab a quick picture like we did, and there were so many other people coming up. But apparently what we learned was you used to be able to go higher on the Statue of Liberty, where you could actually, from the crown, look at the picture in the center, they had another separate staircase and door where you could climb up more and actually go up literally in the torch. But this was not since like the 1930s or something like that. It became so unstable and so scary kind of for people. But originally you could go even further from the crown. We saw the door where the staircase was, and then you could climb up into the torch. But still so memorable because it's been closed for so much. As we wrap up here, I'll talk about the passport program, and probably this is what inspired me. And maybe I shouldn't say it because the parks themselves should be the reason, but as an 11-year-old kid, so every park you go to, all 423 units. Well, there's one exception. One park doesn't have a stamp because it's on a Indian reservation. It's technically closed to the public, but 422 of the 423 national parks, they have a little rubber stamp, and there's little books, various books you can buy to put your stamp impressions in, and you can collect these, and it has the date of your visit and what city or town or whatever they're in. So they're grouped by region or whatever. And so there's some of my first stamps. Lower right is Indiana Dunes from '93, and just various ones. And the colors are different regions. So like the Midwest is normally orange, the West Coast is green, and the Northeast is kind of brown. Yellow is the Rocky Mountains, and black is normally the Southern Plains.
All right. Well, this is my favorite part. It's the Junior Ranger program. It's for kids, but kids at heart too. This is the easiest and probably the fastest way to learn about the park is to do the Junior Ranger program.
Well, the stamps are quicker than doing the work for the Junior Ranger program.
you're not learning about the park.
Well, no,
but
it's
the
a fun way, even as an adult, to fill out the little booklet.
Yes, you learn a lot about the park that you wouldn't think you would know. So, and it gets kids involved. It gets them off their tablets or phones and makes them go on an adventure. So, when we could, we did all the Junior Ranger programs that we could, and we've earned the Junior Ranger badges, even as an adult. So, do the Junior Ranger program.
So we hope you enjoyed our Rail Rangers on the Road program. I'll cut out and do our intros.
On behalf of the Midwest Rail Rangers, thank you so much for joining us for this program. Here's a look at the next program. Make sure you mark your calendar for this, and we look forward to seeing you then. In the meanwhile, if you're planning an Amtrak trip, don't forget about one of our exciting and interesting rail route guides. For more information, go to www.railrangers.org. That's www.railrangers.org. And click on the Rail Rangers store. There are plenty of options for both local and long-distance rail route guides, in traditional book format, PDF ebook, and even MP3 podcasts. Until we gather together next month, the first Sunday of every month at 7 p.m. Central Time, we hope you have a great week and a great month ahead, and come out and join us on one of our onboard educational programs. For a listing of our in-person programs, go to our website. Again, that's www.railrangers.org, and click on upcoming events. Until next month, we'll see you then.